on BBC One, the news at 6 with Sophie Raworth.
Tonight at 6, dozens more photos have just been released from the estate of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Another 68 images made public by US Democratic lawmakers show gatherings of well-known figures, text messages and passports. We are still looking through them. Also tonight, the Bank of England cuts interest rates to their lowest level for almost 2 years.
What it means for a first-time buyer with a sort of average-size mortgage is £100 less a month because of these successive cuts in interest rates.
10-year-old Matilda shot dead in the Bondi beach attack. Her family released this video of her taken that day as her funeral is held.
That's the edge.
Not looking good. England need a miracle now to avoid defeat in the Ashes. And is this monster wave the biggest ever taken on by a woman surfer? We hear from Britain's Laura Crane as she waits to find out if she's made it into the record books.
And coming up on BBC London, police are urgently seeking this man in connection with the fatal stabbing of a 15-year-old last week in Islington. We'll have the details.
Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. Dozens more photos related to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein have just been made public by Democrats in the United States. They show more gatherings of well-known men, as well as text exchanges and screenshots of passports. The trove, released today, is not part of the so-called Epstein files, which the Justice Department has to make public by tomorrow. Our correspondent Tom Bateman has been looking through them. What do they tell us?
Well, Sophie, the House of Representatives Oversight Committee had ordered a trove of 95,000 images to be released by Jeffrey Epstein's estate. And what we have been getting from last week, basically, is a series of releases by Democrats on that committee. What we have had today is a further 60 pictures that the Democrats have been released that they say show a window into the sex trafficking of women and girls that Jeffrey Epstein and his associates were carrying out. Now, it's very important to say that there's a lot of context missing from these pictures. We often don't know why he had them in his possession, or in the case of some of them, why certain messages were sent to him and from whom. But in this batch, there is a screen grab of a text message. Now, it is among these images, as I say, it appears to discuss the trafficking of an 18-year-old woman from Russia, talking about the woman's height, weight and measurements, and asking, it says, for $1,000 for her. I will send you the girls, maybe someone will be good for Jay, it says. Again, we don't know who sent the messages, who it was intended for, or how it was in Epstein's possession. Also included in the batch, images of passports that Democrats on this committee say are those of women that Epstein and his conspirators were in contact with. Most of the details on these passports are blacked out, except for the country and the fact that they all belong to women, including passports from Russia, the Czech Republic, South Africa, from Ukraine and Lithuania. And there are also several photos that show close-ups of quotes from the novel Lolita written onto the neck, chest, back and foot of a woman. Also, as in the last batch, there are images of well-known famous individuals photographed in some cases with Epstein himself. In this batch, they include the academic Noam Chomsky, Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, and Woody Allen, the film director. There is no suggestion of any wrongdoing in these pictures and what has been captured in this particular release. Now, of course, Epstein was found dead in his prison cell in 2019. He had been charged with the trafficking of women and girls. That followed an earlier conviction. And it is that later case that the Department of Justice holds thousands and thousands of pages of records on that Congress has now demanded must be released as well. The deadline for that, Sophie, is tomorrow.
Tom Bateman with the very latest there from Washington. Thank you. The Bank of England has cut interest rates to the lowest level since February 2023, from 4% to 3.75%. That will be welcome news for borrowers and businesses, but bad news for many savers. The rate cut follows news yesterday that inflation had fallen from 3.6 to 3.2%, with the Bank of England saying rates are likely to continue on a gradual downward path. Our economic editor, Faisal Islam, reports.
The economy and inflation have been a bit stuck in recent months, and that can be seen in Christmas markets and on high streets. Today's interest rate cut is supposed to deliver a festive boost. This is one of the main routes for that. Homeowners like Kaylee, who've been locked in for 5 years with a £1,000 a month mortgage hike, now starting to feel confidence in the property market again.
We're kind of just in limbo a bit at the moment and just waiting to see what happens.
What is it that you're hoping to see?
The rates go down and just level out a bit, and a little bit more security and reassurance.
Inflation came down from the energy shock but had bumped back up this year. Now the Bank of England think it will fall faster than expected, back to its target by the spring. And that has created space to add to the series of rate cuts today, with some more cuts expected next year, but perhaps at a slower pace.
You've got your Christmas tie on. This is being called a Santa cut. How much is this about getting the sort of feel-good factor back into consumer confidence and business confidence that has been pretty patchy over the past few months?
Well, our job is to obviously have inflation at target, and we've had some real challenges in recent years with some very big shocks in the world economy. I'm certainly very encouraged and very encouraged today. It's not directly why I'm wearing this tie, but it's very encouraged. Also, that's the season of the year. But I'm very encouraged that I think we are seeing progress. So there are reasons to be optimistic on those grounds.
Both consumer and business confidence have been pretty patchy over the past year, with this so-called Santa rate cut, with more cuts expected next year. That could start to turn around. Where you'd expect to see that is in the very high savings rate coming down as people start to spend, and also in the housing market. And it's in building societies and banks where that is seen most keenly, with mortgage and savings rates falling.
Part of the reason for lowering interest rates and the Bank of England rates is to encourage people to spend and invest more. Yes, this cut will be towards that. Whether it will make a difference, we'll have to wait and see.
The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, sees some vindication in budget measures aimed at lowering inflation.
It's welcome news for families and businesses that the Bank of England have now cut interest rates 6 times since the general election, taking interest rates to 3.75%, the lowest in nearly 3 years, and the fastest pace of interest rate reductions for 17 years.
But the opposition said the cuts showed a weak economy.
The economy is on life support, and the Bank of England is cutting interest rates to give it a bit of CPR. What's happening is that there is not much demand out there. I mean, go to shops and pubs, and they are saying they're not seeing the footfall that they would want to see. We need to stimulate the economy.
The rate cut should help boost retail and the housing market. At the moment, so much spending occurs. But the economy in general needs more than an injection of festive goodwill. Faisal Islam, BBC News.
Violence against women and girls is a national emergency. That's what the Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips has told MPs today as she gave details of the government's much-delayed plans to deal with it. The government has announced £20 million to tackle what it says are the early roots of misogyny. There are also plans to set up specialist rape and sexual offence investigation teams in every police force in England and Wales. According to the most recent figures from the Crime Survey of England and Wales, 1 in 8 women over the age of 16 say they experienced domestic abuse, sexual assault or stalking in England and Wales in the space of a year. Seema Katecha reports.
Nikki is a survivor of domestic abuse. Her former partner was jailed for assault and controlling behaviour. She says an argument after a day out quickly turned violent.
He started hitting me. He started with grabbing my hair, pulling me to the floor, kicking me, punching me, and then it just continued from there for about 2-3 hours, beating me up, stopping, beating me up. You just want to die. You have no thoughts of your own. You're a robot. You are literally a robot. And he controls it. He's got the remote control, or he presses the buttons. You have no thoughts of your own in your head. Nothing at all.
The government wants fewer women to go through what Nikki suffered. The strategy spells out how it plans to do that. Ministers believe by tackling the root causes of misogyny in the classroom, it will prevent young men from becoming domestic abusers. So they're spending millions on training teachers to challenge prejudicial views and sending difficult students on behaviour courses to change their attitudes.
I absolutely want to get in at the very early stage, protecting children who may be being exposed to abuse maybe in their own household, but also just that discussion about a healthy relationship. Boys and girls, but particularly boys, teenage boys, I think it is vitally important.
Ministers say they plan to ban AI apps which digitally remove clothing or nudify people.
There is a whole different patterns of behaviour that shows domestic abuse.
In County Durham, a charity works with domestic abusers to try and change their behaviour. This man came here for help after becoming verbally aggressive with a former partner.
I was just constantly shouting and I didn't like the way I was, so I knew there was something that needed to be done about it.
There may be some people who can't trust that somebody like you can actually change. What would you say to them?
Because at the start I would think, nah, I would never go to a group, I would never do this. Because I was always thinking, oh, it's people who's done worse things, you always think the worst. But when you go there, it's just people like yourself, and you get on and you learn, and you come out a much better person. That's what I've done.
The government's investing in more sessions like this, but some argue the strategy isn't being given enough money.
My concern is that we don't have the funding in place to really implement or keep up with this level of activity. Inevitably, the more the strategy is successful, the more people will come forward and need and want and require support, and we need to be able to have that funded.
Some survivors are critical of the timing of the publication, just a day before Parliament breaks up for Christmas. They think it sends the wrong message to those who've been abused. Seema Katecha, BBC News.
Well, just to say, details of organisations offering support for victims of domestic abuse are available from the BBC Action Line website. You can also call 0800 888 809 for free. Let's talk to our political correspondent Nick Eardley in Westminster. So what's been the reaction to these plans today from MPs?
Sophie, the government is making big pledges on this issue. Labour promised at the general election to halve the number of incidents of violence against women and girls. And today, in this strategy, is promising to use the full power of the state to crack down on that violence. There are some questions, I think, about how quickly this will have an impact. For example, the plan to have specialist rape investigation teams in every police force in England and Wales doesn't come into full effect until 2029. And although there is agreement here that this is an issue that needs tackled, there is a debate about how exactly it should be done. Seema was talking in the piece there about plans for young boys as young as 11 to potentially go to behaviour classes. Well, the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, says that's a gimmick. It shows that the government has run out of ideas. Instead, she's told the BBC she wants a focus on more police and removing foreign criminals, especially those who, in her words, come from cultures where women are treated as third-class citizens. So there is a debate about exactly what the priorities should be in this strategy, but ministers are adamant that this is a national emergency and that this plan they've published today will tackle it.
And Nick, if I can just ask you about a story that's just breaking since we've been on air, and it's news that we have now a new UK ambassador to Washington. That's after Peter Mandelson was sacked by the Prime Minister.
Yeah, this is going to be Christian Turner, who has been around the Foreign Office in Whitehall for 3 decades now, someone with a lot of experience about how the diplomatic world works. A very different choice to Peter Mandelson, who of course was a political appointee, someone chosen by Sir Keir Starmer because of his political ties to the United States. He of course was sacked back in September after more allegations about his historical relationship with Jeffrey Epstein emerged. But Mr Turner will have a big job on his hands working with the Trump administration. It is the biggest job in British diplomacy. A new man in it tonight.
Nick, thank you. Families and supporters of pro-Palestinian activists who are on the biggest hunger strike seen in British prisons for decades have called on the government to intervene and provide medical help. 5 people aged between 20 and 31 stopped eating in November. They are all awaiting trial after being charged with offences related to alleged break-ins or criminal damage linked to Palestine Action before the group was prescribed a terrorist organisation in July. They all deny the allegations. 2 of them are into the 47th day of their protest. Cameron Ahmad has been on hunger strike for 39 days now. His sister today spoke of the family's fear.
Our family has never felt this much anxiety, never dreaded phone calls as much as we have now. So how will I ever know if my brother enters a coma? How would I ever know if he's in his last moments?
Well, our home and legal correspondent Dominic Casciani is with me. Some of them are now into the 7th week without food. We know that they are all in a pretty bad way now.
Yeah, Sophie, I mean, there's nothing to suggest these people are faking it. Nobody is disputing these basic details. And one of the women who's gone 47 days now, Kessa Zarraj, she was taken to hospital yesterday, and there was a large protest outside the Ministry of Justice in London last night, effectively in solidarity with her and others. The medical facts show that it's around this period, and when you're into the 40-day mark, that things start to go really seriously wrong in a hunger striker's body. So I think that underlines the seriousness of what's going on. They've made a number of demands, including the lifting of the ban on Palestine Action. That's something which is before the courts, and ultimately I think that's going to go all the way to the top, to the Supreme Court, perhaps in the spring. Some of the other demands we can't really unpick because they relate to matters which are before the courts in their own trials, and there are just basic rules around protecting the right to a fair trial there. But today we heard for the first time from the Prisons Minister, Lord Timpson, and he said, look, there are lots of hunger strikes every year, maybe around 200. We have strict rules. Clinicians lead the way on this. And when he was asked about a demand that he should meet with the lawyers for the group, he had this to say.
I'm very clear. I don't treat any prisoners any differently from any other. And so that is why we will not be meeting any prisoners or their representatives, because we have a justice system that is based on the separation of powers, and the independence of the judiciary is the cornerstone of our system.
Now, the lawyers for the group have suggested they might go to court to try and force the issue. It's very difficult to know what that case would be and how that would really come about. And the critical thing here, Sophie, is hunger striking is a choice. It's a choice not to eat. So you have to wonder, actually, what could judges really do if they were asked to intervene?
Dominic Casciani, thank you. The time is just after 6:15, our top story this evening. Dozens more photos are released from the estate of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein by US Democratic lawmakers. And coming up, get ready to vote for your BBC Sports Personality of the Year. The ceremony gets underway shortly. We'll be there live.
Also before 7, the World Table Tennis Championships is coming home 100 years after the very first event was held in London. And exploring the wildlife of London, Sir David Attenborough stays close to home for his next adventure.
President Zelensky says he's counting on a positive decision from EU countries over plans to use frozen Russian assets to fund military support for Ukraine. Leaders are meeting in Belgium to discuss the deal, but some remain concerned they could be forced to return the money to Russia when the war ends. James Waterhouse reports from Brussels.
Today, Brussels is a city of disagreement, of blocked routes, frustration, and a murky outlook. In the streets, farmers protest against a new agricultural policy. But it's on the European Union's red carpet where a greater division is emerging over whether to use €210 billion worth of frozen Russian assets to help Ukraine.
Either money today or blood tomorrow. And I am not talking about Ukraine only, I am talking about Europe.
4 years of a full-scale invasion means Kiev is expected to run out of money in months, and the EU is trying to decide how to help.
We have to find a solution today. The President of the Council said, and I support him in that, we will not leave the European Council without a solution.
This is a bloc coming under pressure from all directions. You have Russia promising reprisals, you have Ukraine asking for this money, and you have America reportedly eyeing up the cash for its own peace vision. The consensus among Ukraine's European allies on how best to support it is starting to fracture. there is growing resistance to giving Ukraine a loan with Russian money. Moscow-friendly countries like Hungary claim to be worried about a response.
The whole idea is a stupid one, to take away the money of somebody. There are two countries which are in war, yeah? It's not European Union, Russia and Ukraine.
Kyiv hopes a required majority of EU members will approve the loan. The diplomacy, not least from Volodymyr Zelensky, is being mainly directed at Belgium's Prime Minister Bart de Wever. Most of the Russian cash is being held in his country, and he's concerned about legally being forced to pay it back.
Can you spell out for us what it would mean if you reach next spring and this money is not signed off? What does that mean for Ukraine?
If this new funding does not arrive, Ukraine's drone production, for example, would be reduced significantly. We are competitive with Russia, but that would change.
As discussions go into the night, Ukraine is worried about all the talk being about money and not peace. James Waterhouse, BBC News, Brussels.
In Australia, the funeral of 10-year-old Matilda, the youngest victim of the Bondi Beach terror attack, has taken place. 15 people were killed in Sunday's deadly shootings at an event to mark the start of the Jewish festival Hanukkah. One gunman was shot and killed. A second alleged gunman is charged with 59 offences, including 15 counts of murder. From Sydney, here's Katie Watson.
Remembering the little girl who spread love and happiness everywhere. Her local synagogue was packed today, saying goodbye to the youngest victim of Sunday's attack. Matilda had been enjoying Hanukkah celebrations with her family. Just moments after this video was taken, she was shot dead. Her sister Summer survived. Only yesterday, this rabbi led his son-in-law's funeral. Today, he spoke again.
You're right. Our little ray of sunshine. She's genuinely the most kind, caring and compassionate young girl who brightened everyone's day.
Australia was meant to be a safe space for Matilda's family. They chose her name because it was Australian, a tribute to the country that offered them refuge from Ukraine. Shortly before the service, Matilda's aunt told me the impact her death has had on her parents.
I don't know if they will be ever happy again, just full of life and smiles. And suddenly with shots, suddenly it's happened. It's beyond understanding for any human being.
It is clear we need to do more to combat this evil scourge.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese today announced a series of reforms to crack down on hate speech and said a task force would be set up to ensure the education system responded to anti-Semitism.
In announcing the new laws, the Prime Minister accepted responsibility that much more could have been done. He's clearly under pressure. But for those directly impacted and going over the trauma of what happened last Sunday, that admission is of little comfort.
With the park at Bondi now reopened, survivor Philip Einfeld returned today with his family to make his mark on the bridge where the shooting started. His grandchildren recalling the panic.
I couldn't find Chloe, I couldn't find her.
And you get behind the car.
That's right, and then found her.
Their memories of Sunday are still raw.
It's just, I think we're all still processing what happened and we're still in shock, and it's going to take time to feel normal again. This is our home. We come here really every day with our kids.
Will the bad guys start shooting us again?
The bad guys have gone to jail now.
They're gone. They're no more. That's why we're here, and that's why we've got a beautiful menorah.
Bondi's Jewish community is determined to celebrate its Festival of Lights despite the darkness of these past few days. Katie Watson, BBC News in Sydney.
The number of people in hospital in England with flu continues to rise, though the rate of growth has slowed. The latest figures from NHS England show an average of just over 3,000 flu patients were in hospital each day last week. That's up 18% compared with the previous week. Hugh Pym is with me now. So the situation doesn't seem to be quite as bad as was feared.
Well, that's right, Sophie. There were dire warnings about flu surging and putting real pressure on hospitals round about now, but the situation seems at least to have stabilised. Let's take a look at some of the data. First of all, the number of positive flu cases. And you can see here the red line on the left is this current winter, The other two lines are peaks in previously bad flu winters. Now, it started earlier than those previous examples, but you can see the red line has begun to turn down. Not necessarily the peak, but it does point to something a bit better than what people expected. Moving on to hospital flu numbers, and there's a map here showing England, and you can see big variation there. As you said, the number of hospital cases has gone up at a slower rate, but in the northwest of England, they've actually come down in the most weekly figures, though have risen sharply in the southwest of England and the east of England. In Scotland, cases are coming down, so too in Northern Ireland, up a bit in Wales, but that rate of increase is slowing.
Super. Thank you. England are facing defeat in the Ashes after another poor batting performance on the second day of the third test in Adelaide. The tourists reached 213 for 8 in their first innings, still 158 runs behind Australia. Here's Patrick Geary.
Judgment Day, once again Australia's day, and probably Australia's Ashes. They'd made 371 in their first innings. Now England's turn. In 40-degree heat, the safest place was in the shade. No shelter out there, no sanctuary. Zach Crawley gone to the returning Pat Cummins. Now Australia released their lion. Ollie Pope fell straight into Nathan Lyon's trap.
Madness from Ollie Pope.
England have no spinner to compare to Lyon. 3 balls later, Ben Duckett was cooked. England was stewing.
We're coming out for the Adelaide Test, Melbourne and Sydney. And I was not in a good mood when I got on that plane.
A bit annoying, really. Quite lacklustre for the England team. It's a bit annoying, but I think keep hope. It's not over yet.
That belief would soon be tested.
That's the end.
When Joe Root is gone, English hope goes with him. If only he'd let it be. Harry Brook reined it in, staying cool in the heat, but it was a temporary rally. On 45, he went too. Dizzying stuff if you're an England fan, and the technology once again wasn't helping. Had Jamie Smith hit this? As yesterday, the waveform didn't match when the ball passed the bat. He was given. But were they guessing? Both sides seem to have lost faith in the system, but the margin between the teams is wider than a murmur. Fewer extravagant shots this time, but still 8 wickets down, 158 runs behind.
They look now like an England side that's just a little bit unsure whether to attack or do they defend. They've not been able to go up and down in the gears, which is so important at Test match level.
Hope dies hard among English cricket fans, but this felt like the day the Ashes slipped away. Patrick Geary, BBC News.
The winner of BBC Sports Personality of the Year will be announced tonight. The awards ceremony is about to get underway in Salford. Andy Swiss reports.
The stage is set, that famous trophy is waiting, but who'll be next to etch their name on it? Well, there are 6 contenders. Footballer Hannah Hampton, her England teammate Chloe Kelly, rugby union star Ellie Kildunn, darts player Luke Littler, golfer Rory McIlroy, and Formula One driver Lando Norris. But it's not the only intriguing contest. 2 England women's teams, the Euros winning footballers, and the World Cup winning rugby union side are up against Europe's Ryder Cup golfers in the battle for Team of the Year.
Thierry, hello.
Hey Thierry, Kelly here.
Hi Thierry.
Thierry's Mo here.
We definitely know the name of one winner though.
Thierry Henry.
Celebrity approval for the former Arsenal footballer Thierry Henry, who'll receive the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Keely Hodgkinson.
But the biggest focus will be on the biggest prize. 12 months after Keely Hodgkinson's victory, one of sport's most historic honours is again up for grabs.
Well, the contenders have been arriving here on the red carpet, and the winner will be decided by a public vote. Voting is online only, and details of how you can vote will be announced during the show. It all gets underway at 7 o'clock, and of course, it is live on BBC One. Sophie.
Andy, thank you. Now have a look at this. A 30-year-old surfer, there she is, from Devon, is waiting to find out if she has made it into the record books for riding the biggest wave ever taken on by a woman. Laura Crane was competing in the Nazar Big Wave Challenge in Portugal at the weekend. She has been telling us what it felt like to ride the monster wave.
Catching one of those waves, there's so much going through your mind. There's part of you that's just thinking, like, please do not mess this up. That moment of looking over my shoulder on this wave was a big shock. I had never seen a wave that big in my life. And yeah, there's definitely an element of fear and so many emotions, but that's the moment. Like, that is when you have to override it. And I actually came off the wave and just burst straight into tears.
Amazing. What incredible guts to do that. Well, Laura Crane, 30 years old, is waiting now to find out if she has indeed made it into the record books. We'll, of course, let you know. Let's have a look at the weather now. Stav Danaos, hello.
Hi there, Sophie. Thank you very much. Good evening to you. Today was the last of the very wet days until we reach the Christmas period. There will be a little bit more rain around, but nothing as wet as what we saw through the day today. Now, as we head into tomorrow, it will be brighter. We've got a ridge of high pressure moving in. It will be quite windy, though. 1 or 2 showers, but many central and eastern areas will stay dry. But it was a real soaker of a day across parts of central, southern, eastern England, Northern Ireland and western Scotland today, with strong and gusty winds for a time. Most of the heavy rain is pushing out into the North Sea now, and it'll leave some clearer skies through tonight. Quite blustery, and a rush of showers will push into northern and western areas, but staying dry for eastern areas. So temperatures lower than they were last night, but I think because of the breeze as well, most of us will start Friday frost-free. Not a bad day, I think, from Friday. Many central and eastern areas will stay dry all day, breezy and sunny, but we will have showers rattling to western areas. Some of these will be quite heavy across northern and western Scotland. Maybe some hail and thunder mixed in too, and it will be windy here with gales. Temperatures pretty much where we should be for the time of year, around 7 to 11 degrees. Saturday also not a bad day, a ridge of high pressure there. It's going to be another quite a windy day, I think, across western areas as this weather front starts to push into western parts of the country. But for the majority, apart from a bit of variable cloud, we should hold on to the sunshine. Winds coming in from the south may feel a little bit cooler. I think single digits in the north, just about double figures in the south. Now, this area of low pressure tries to push across the country, but then starts to pull away as high pressure begins to build over the near continent. So I think most of the cloud outbreaks of rain on Sunday will be central, southern and western areas. It will stay drier across the northern half of the UK with some sunny spells around. Temperatures starting to come down slightly, and that's the theme as we head into next week for the run-up to Christmas and into the Christmas period. We pick up chilly easterly winds with quite a lot of cloud around, but it should be a little bit drier, bar the odd shower here and there. So it's looking better than it has been of late. That's it from me. Sophie.
Stav, thank you. That's it from us. Time now for the news where you are. Goodbye.